Morale and the Big Steppers is the greatest album ever made, 0 out of 10. Kendrick Lamar's last 3 studio albums are modern classics. The B-side album he dropped was good. The Marvel movie tie-in album was good. To say his first studio album in 5 years has been hotly anticipated would be an understatement. The only semi-concrete thing we learned was that it would be a double album, which meant whether it was good or not, it was going to be a mess. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is a mess. A thoughtful mess, a frustrating mess, a contradictory mess, and a beautiful mess. You see, the thing with double albums is that they usually represent an artist who is too big to fail. The White Album is considered by some to be the Beatles' best album, but it also represented the beginning of the end for them as a band. London Calling, Electric Ladyland, The Wall, Stadium Arcadium, Angelic to the Core, Speaker Box, The Love Below. Even though many of those records are considered classics, they're often defined by and remembered for their excess. But Kendrick is always one to subvert expectations. To start, this isn't long enough to be a double album. It's 73 minutes. That could fit on one CD. It's only a double album because Kendrick says so. And Kendrick says so because the album's track list reflects a before and after for him. You see, Kendrick has been going through something. He's been seeing a therapist. He's been working on himself. The first half of this record mostly deals with external forces that lead to Kendrick stepping bigly around the issues in his life, and the second half shows the OK Llama himself facing his internal darkness head on. The sound of Mr. Mungus and the Big Stud Muffins also subverts expectations. Going into this, everybody had their own idea of what this record was going to sound like. My personal prediction was an album of flamenco guitar where every feature was done by Meghan Trainor. In reality, it's a mix of every past Kendrick album. It's okay, I've got plenty more predictions where that came from. But the most notable addition is actually subtraction. The mixes this time are fairly minimal, which gives both Kendrick and his sonic surroundings a greater ability to command your attention. United in Grief lays out Kendrick's use of money and sex to suppress negative emotions. I love the sharp piano jabs under Kendrick's triplet flow, then the sudden cut into those blown out drums. Worldwide Steppers has Kendrick speaking freely about his own shortcomings over what sounds like a 70s soul reimagining of that one scene in Willy Wonka. Die Hard and Purple Hearts are both primed to soundtrack Summer 2022, just like We Cry Together, which is such a fun song. I can't wait to play it at every party by force. The only thing that makes this song more fun is its clean version. Of course, there are moments where he decides to obliterate any challengers as a treat, and 95 is the closest thing on here to a humble, as Kendrick verbally undresses fakers. There are also moments where Kendrick goes for the emotional jugular. Mother I Sober is the emotional centerpiece of the album, as Kendrick tells the story of how the effects of abuse carried down generation to generation, with Beth Gibbons of Portishead providing the hook. I haven't been this gut-punched by a Kendrick song since You Want to Pimp a Butterfly. And there are plenty of times where Kendrick is just really funny. Silent Hill, the bit where he goes, God, that's hilarious. So is the bit in Purple Hearts where he says, baby. Also that line in N95 where he goes,
take off from fabricate streams and the microwave memes. It's a real world outside.
A potential line of the year. Across the project's runtime, Kendrick does a fine job balancing the various aspects of his psyche. But did he need to bring on this guy to do it? Taking Meghan Trainor's rightful place is rapper and convicted abuser Kodak Black. His inclusion has frustrated many, as has the song Auntie Diaries, where Kendrick drops the F slur and dead names a trans relative. Let me speak on that second one first. I understand that Auntie Diaries tells the story of Kendrick coming to terms with his aunt's transition, and the use of slurs and dead naming establishes who he first was before he came to said terms. I've also heard the idea that he's using these slurs as a way to reach an audience who might need to hear about this kind of growth. If that's what Kendrick meant, I think that's smart, but I can't say that the rationale 100% makes up for the feeling I get when I hear him say those slurs. But at that point, it's less about me and more about how successful he is at reaching that intended audience. I am less charitable towards the inclusion of Kodak. I don't mind that Kendrick says he sees himself in Kodak, but I think that reference on Savior could have been made without actually bringing him in as a main figure on the album. Let me put it this way. During We Cry Together, Kendrick brings up R. Kelly, but he didn't actually put him on the record. The simple name drop was enough to communicate Kendrick's intentions, you know? I also don't care much for the small handful of times he derided cancel culture, but that's mostly just because I'm sick of the topic. Unless Kendrick's bars gave me back my gallbladder, I would not like any lines about it. You may have already commented about how I'm missing the point and how I only like Spoon and Crazy Frog, but I hold nothing against you if you thought positively of these decisions, and I hope you would treat me the same. I'd like to close this out with a quote from this great book I've been reading, Major Labels by Kelefa Sanneh. At the end of a chapter dedicated to hip-hop, he says this about Kendrick. Both his careful attention to rhyme and meter and his equally careful attention to black identity and black neighborhoods mark Lamar as a hip-hop anomaly, proof of what the genre is capable of at its extreme, but not representative of what the genre is generally like. That is no criticism, but I can't help but wince when people talk about hip-hop as the high-minded, Pulitzer Prize-winning genre they feel it should be, rather than the rowdy and messy genre it usually has been. Now, I can't say for certain, as I do not know him personally, but I think Kendrick believes some version of this idea, that he is viewed as above the genre he is a part of. And what's more, I don't think he likes that. I think he wants you to remember that despite his lofty status in music, he is no one's savior. Not yours, not hip-hop's, not anyone's savior. And this album is his 73-minute plea for you to remember that. I can't say Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is Kendrick Lamar's best album. I can't say it's his most enjoyable, and I can't say it's his most replayable. But I can say it's his most human album. It views with compassion and understanding the highs and lows of being Kendrick Lamar, the euphoric pinnacles, greatest album ever made, and the embarrassing contradictions. 0 out of 10.
You sick of this. You.